Day two of the U.S. naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it's being called. It operationally is maybe a little bit different from that, but that's what it's being called. On your screen now is a live tracking of all the tanker vessels in the region. That's what those red dots are. This tracker showed at least 3 vessels were able to cross the narrow waterway, the strait, today, despite the blockade. Now, the blockade is selective. It's not against every vessel. Now, worth comparing that, before the entire war with Iran began, the traffic carried about 100 to 110, maybe 120 vessels on a big day through the strait every single day. I want to turn now to Elliot Ackerman, who I'm very glad is here at the family table. Elliot is a friend of the show, contributor at CBS, former CIA officer and Marine Corps veteran. Elliot, let's talk about the strait. One thing the White House touted late this afternoon is they said a bunch of tankers that are empty have turned around and are now heading to America to get oil from America. They're saying that's a sign of the success of this operation. How do you evaluate that?
I think the White House is, very much not only trying to sell this stage of the war to the American people, but the war writ large. And the White House knows it's up against domestic concern, domestic political pressure to find a resolution to what's going on in Iran.
Right. The Saudis, it has been confirmed through CBS News reporting, want this to end, do not like the blockade at all, and are fearful about repercussions economically and otherwise. Walk us through that.
Well, that's right. I mean, the Saudis have a challenge in the Red Sea where, if you remember, a year ago, the Houthis had been making a lot of problems and shutting down shipping in the Red Sea. So the Saudis are not only up against the Strait of Hormuz and the economic pressure that's putting on them, but also up against their issues in the Red Sea. I mean, this is just indicative of the fact that this war is multi-dimensional. There's no quick fix here. There's no one button that you push and the entire problems and all the problems in the Middle East get solved. And that's what we're seeing.
And another part of this that is a point of concern, a point of contention, a point of military activity, not often focused on day to day, but it's super important, Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah there. And there were talks in Washington today overseen by the Secretary of State to try to bring that to some sort of resolution. That's a big part of this story.
It's a huge part of the story. And it's one that sometimes as Americans we can lose sight of, is that this is a war we entered with our ally Israel. And from the Israeli point of view, the threat that comes from Hezbollah in Lebanon.
A proxy of Iran.
A proxy of Iran.
In southern Lebanon.
Right on their northern border is really existential. So, as Americans, often we hear about the Iranian nuclear program that focuses on Iran. If you're Israeli, a very big part of this war is solving the challenge that is Hezbollah in Lebanon. So, again, it's multidimensional.
And it was said today after the talks ended, this is a very small first step. No one expected anything to be resolved today.
Absolutely. And so, if we look on the home front, where I think many Americans are growing impatient with the war, are starting to feel the economic pressures, this is really going to be a challenge for the president and a challenge for Republicans.
I want to ask you about the broader geopolitical context here. Nick Burns was on this program yesterday, talked about the China angle. I'd like you to give me your thoughts on what China is doing and maybe how it's playing both sides.
I think to zoom out for a second, the war in Iran has, been great for China. I mean, it's great for China because we're not talking about the host of issues that exist between the United States and China. We're talking about a war of choice that the United States is engaged in inside of Iran. Kind of going down more to the micro level, we're seeing that the Chinese have been, the reports of them delivering surface-to-air missiles to the Iranian military while also trying to encourage peace talks. So, very astutely playing both sides. But ultimately for China, this war has been something that's advantageous to them.
Even if supplies of oil that come from the strait and go to China are choked off? Couldn't that be a problem for China?
It places economic stress on China for sure, but I think ultimately the advantages probably outweigh the economic stress that China is feeling because of this oil.
Excellent. Great to have you here at the table.
Thank you, Andrew.
Please come back. You're always welcome. Elliot Ackerman, thank you. CBS News congressional reporter Taurean Small joins me now from Capitol Hill, where Democratic lawmakers are looking to force another war powers vote on the war with Iran. But there was a lot of other things going on today, Taurean, specifically with some lawmakers commenting on Eric Swalwell, among them Ruben Gallego, Arizona Democratic senator.
Yeah, Major. I mean, and just to follow that conversation that you just had there's 2 trains running when it comes to these war power resolution efforts on Capitol Hill. We know that Representative Gregory Meeks is looking to push through the floor on the House side his version of a war powers resolution to rein in the Trump administration's handling of Iran, as well as Tammy Duckworth, the senator from Illinois. The problem is finding consensus with Republicans. I think the House has a little bit of a pathway to success in finding simple majority there, as there have been a handful of Republicans who have expressed disinterest or displeasure with how the president has handled this conflict. But on the Senate side, Democrats have to find 4 Republicans willing to buck with their party in order to send this statement over to the president's desk. It's likely that even if that happens, they'll still see that veto from the president. This would be a pretty notable rebuke, even if it didn't have teeth, for bipartisan effort to tell the president that they're displeased with his handling of Iran. But we've heard from quite a few Republicans today who said that they believe this will be wrapped up within that 60-day window. We're around 45, 46 days so far. So we'll see what happens in the coming days. But these will be 2 pretty important test votes to hit the floors this week.
And the War Powers Resolution calls for something to happen after 60 days if the president does not go to Congress.